Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Marilyn Bruce and I am a Ghanaian based women's wear fashion designer. So the purpose of this channel is to share with you guys some tips on fashion, specifically wedding related fashion. Okay, and I do so by sharing videos randomly, which isn't supposed to be so. I'm a very busy person and I'm trying my best to change that. So without much further ado, let's get straight into today's tutorial or today's project. So today I'm going to be working on this corseted top, or kaba as we call it in Ghana. So if you are interested in this, you want to know how to make this, kindly stay tuned and let's get right into it. I started off by illustrating the design. So I came up with a design and I sent it to my bride and she approved it. So after, we're going to get straight into the drafting process. First off, we're going to start with squaring a line across our brown paper. I used 25 inches, which is my bride's top length, 25 inches. So you can go ahead and use whatever inches that favors you or the design that you're going for. So here we are going to mark down our horizontal lines. The next line that I'm going to be marking is the bust line, the under bust line, the waist line, and then the last line is the hem. Okay, so the shoulder to nipple gives you your bust line, and hers was 11. The shoulder to underbust gives you your underbust line. The shoulder to waist gives you your waistline. Okay, so my client's shoulder to underbust was 15, and then the shoulder to waist was 19, and then the top length was 25. So you can go ahead and use whatever measurements that is suitable for you. The next thing to do is to measure your cross front and mark it down. Hers was 16 divided into 2 is 8. Then the next thing is to mark your shoulder slope. That's 1 inches down from the shoulder line. And then I also marked my neckline. So as you can see here, I've extended the shoulder slope. This is because of the design that we are going for. It's going to be a drop shoulder. So next off is to develop my armhole. So this is just drafting the basic bodice block. I guess by now you all know how to do that. So next up, I'm marking my nipple to nipple, which was 9. So 9 divided into 2 is 4.5. So I just went ahead to mark that. So I'm going up by 3 inches, which is her bust circumference. So to get your bust circumference, you're just going to measure your nipple point to your under bust. Whatever measurement you get is your bust circumference. So I'm just using that to draft the yoke of the dress, because this top has a yoke. Okay, so I'm going to do that before I start developing the cups of the top. Okay, to develop the cup, you're going to go in 1 inch on the left side of your dot and then 1.5 on the right side of your dot. Next thing to do is to measure your shoulder, divide it into 2, and then connect that to your bust point. You're going to take either ½ inch or 1 inch or 1.5 or more, depending on how big you want your cup, how big or small you want your cup. So the next thing that I'm doing is I'm using my pencil to try and then draw or develop the shape of my cup before I go in with the marker. The next thing that I will be doing is to mark down the bust circumference of my client, and then I'm going to add that allowance that I put at the top back onto it, okay, before I draw the other side of the cup. So basically, they say our left side or the outer part of our breast is bigger than the inner part. So with this, what you're going to do is to either mark 1 inch, 1.5 or more, starting from the armhole line, that straight line there. You're going to stand on that line, and then you're going to mark either 1 inch, 1.5 or 2, depending on how big the person's breast is. Okay, I hope it makes sense. So that is what I just did, and I came up by 1 inch so I could connect the cap for it to look perfect, or for the shape to look well. So after I'm done drafting the cups, I'm going to move to the drop shoulder, which I extended the line by 6 inches, and I'm going to be connecting that back to the cups. After you're done, you realize that that point is very pointy, and you don't want that. You don't want any pointy edges. So we are going to be smoothing that out. I took out 1 inch. You can take more if you want, but you have to realize the more you take, the tighter the arm is going to be. Okay, after I'm done, I'm going to be drawing my chest line, which is going to start from the point of the cups. As you can see, I just drew that line, and I'm going ahead to mark her bust circumference, which was 9 inches, and I added my dots back to it. And then I'm going ahead to square my dot line down to the hem of the top. I'm going to be marking down her waist as well. Her waist is 32. So I'm going to mark that down, and I'm going to add the dot allowance to it. Okay, and I'm going to be doing the same thing to the hem. So with the hem part of the top, you're going to use the hip measurement to get that measurement. Okay, so her hip was 48, so I'm going to mark that down, and I'm going to add the that allowance as well. Then you're just going to connect it to the waist and then to the bust line. So after I'm done, according to the style, it has to be shaped, and I just marked 3 inches, which is going to be connected to the center front of the top. Okay, so after I'm done, I'm going to be reshaping my dots so that after we are done cutting and stitching together the pieces together, there aren't going to be any shortages. Okay, so that's what I just did, and that's gonna be my new line. So it's very simple, and we are done with the front part of the top. Don't forget to label your patterns as always. Okay, so after I'm done, I'm just going to move to the back part of the drafting. And yes, I went in by 1/2 inch at the front part. This is optional, but this helps with the cinching or snatching of the top. It's optional. You can choose to do it, you can choose to omit this part. It's totally optional, like I said earlier. So the same method or the same process for the front, you're going to be repeating the same thing. So first off, we're going to be marking across front. If you have the person's across back measurements, you can use that. I'm sorry, at this point I didn't know my camera wasn't capturing the upper part, but it's very simple. You're going to apply the same procedure for the front to the back. You're going to mark your across back, divide it into 2. You're going to mark that down. You come down by 1 inch on the shoulder line. You extend the shoulder by 6 inches to acquire your shoulder slope. So just as you draft your normal basic block for the back. That's the same thing you're going to do here, but the most important part of the drafting is being captured, so I'm happy about that. Okay, so I took off 1 inch from the shoulder slope to avoid the pointy edge, like I said earlier on. And then here, since my bride wanted the back to come down a little bit, she wanted her back to be a little bit lowered, I came down by 3 inches and I connected that back to my armhole. So that part is going to form the yoke. Then what I'm doing is I'm just developing my dart for the back. You're going to measure your nipple to nipple measurement. Mine was 4 inches, sorry, 4.5, and I marked that down. I took half inch on both sides and I came up with my dart. So the next thing I'm doing is since this is going to be a corset, we need to take out some of is it allowance, can I say allowance? I'm just taking off some inches off the back. So I took about 2.5 inches. You can take more, you can take less, but I think the less you take the better. Yeah, I'm saying so because corset doesn't mean you shouldn't breathe, you shouldn't be uncomfortable in your dress. You can still wear a corset and be comfortable. You can sit properly and it's like you're going to be happy. You see people wearing corsets and they are not happy. Okay, it's a result of some of this cinching. You take out too much allowance and then it becomes very tight. So I hope you're watching what I'm doing. It's very self-explanatory, and when you follow what I'm doing, you're just going to arrive at the same thing, the same process. So as easy as it is, I'm done drafting the back as well. So what I'm doing now here is I'm taking out 1 inch from the yoke, because I realized that normally when I sew for people with yoke, there's always this gaping at the back. So I came up with this technique where I always take either half or 1 inch from the back of the yoke, the center back of the yoke. So just as I have done, I hope you can see that. So after everything is being said and done, we are going to be cutting our pattern on the kente. Okay, so I'm arranging them according to how I'm going to be cutting, since some of the patterns are going to be on the plain side of the kente and others are going to be on the pattern part of the kente. Okay, so you always have to remember to iron so you avoid any creases, any excesses. Yeah, so after I'm done cutting, I'm going to move on to the next stage. But before I move to the next stage, I'm going to be adding a lot more allowance than usual because of the method of boning that I'll be using. So as you watch, you're going to understand why. After I'm done cutting my kente pieces, I move on to the lining. I'm going to iron that as well. The type of lining that I'm using is the softer version of bridal satin, the lighter type. Okay, you want to avoid the very hard one. So if you don't want to use bridal satin, you can use Valentino, which also looks like bridal satin, but it's much more lighter than bridal satin. You can also use cotton lining, or you can go for taffeta. Okay, so most clients complain that the silky type of fabrics makes them sweat. Okay, but I also prefer using those ones because of the kind of finishing it gives the inner part of the garment. It gives it this luxurious look. So depending on what your client wants or what you feel is suitable for your brand, you can go for whatever you want, whatever lining you want. So I went ahead and I cut my interface as well. I'll be stitching this, like all the three separately, just as I did for my first kente corset video, which you people really loved and I really appreciated. I'll be doing the same thing. I'll be using the same process for this as well. Also, I'll be using the caging method to construct my cups. This tutorial is really choked with a lot of information, so you really want to stay tuned and then watch the part 2 of my next video, okay? Because I'm going to be doing the stitching process in part 2. This brings us to the end of part 1. I'm going to be seeing you in part 2, where I'll be stitching and doing all the embellishments, and you're going to see the final outcome of the garment. Thank you so much for watching up till this point. If you found this tutorial very helpful, if you learned anything new, kindly subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post a new video. You can also share with friends and family. Leave a comment below if you have any questions. I'll be there to answer all your questions, and don't forget to like this video as well. Until next time, bye.